there's a rule in intersexual competition when it comes to friendships that men will insult each other and not mean it, and women will compliment each other and not mean it.
That's so true.
That's so true.
I've heard my wife say, like, someone will say, like, a woman will give a compliment, and then afterwards she'll be like, "What a bitch!" I'm like, "What?" She totally meant this. I'm like, "She said something nice. She said she had nice hair." She's like, "No, what she meant was that her hair looked shitty."
Yeah. So I've spent a good bit of time learning about intrasexual competition. So this is how men compete with men and women compete with women. And frankly, all of us in this room should be very thankful that we're not women, because female friendships are fucking vicious. They are way, way, way more vicious than
what have you found? Share some of the stuff.
Fucking hell, man. So, I mean, there's 2 episodes that people should go and check out. Dr. Tanya Reynolds, which just came out very recently, and Joyce Benenson. Both of them are on the Chris Williamson YouTube or Modern Wisdom, Spotify, whatever. One of the interesting ones is the effectiveness of sexual gossip that women use, right? So if you look at, on average, how men derogate each other, they will derogate each other through pokes at their level of masculinity and sexual prowess. So you'll say, like, you're a soft, small-cocked bitch.
Yeah.
Like, that would be the sort of thing.
I'm going to use that.
Whereas soft, small-cocked bitch. Whereas if you were to look at what women will do, they will tend to derogate chastity, right? So chastity and youthfulness / attraction. So like, you're a fat slag or you're a fat whore.
Yeah.
Like, that would be where they would go. And this is so funny, right? Because it identifies just that little thought experiment. Think back to what you as a guy call your guy friends, or if you were a girl, how you would insult a man that you didn't want to feel good. You would start to try and poke at his manhood and his sexual prowess.
Yes.
And if a guy wants to make a girl feel bad, even if it's just someone that cuts him up on the street, right? Like, where's the first place that you go if you're going to, like, shout an expletive at a woman? You're going to call her, like, a whore or like a stupid bitch or something, right? As opposed to, so you have this divergence. The reason that sexual gossip is so useful is that chastity is something that men really value in women, right? They don't want a partner that is super promiscuous, because male parental uncertainty, i.e. not knowing whether the kid is mine or not, means that I need to have the greater sense of loyalty and certainty that I have that this woman is not sleeping around, the more comfortable I can feel.
This is why in studies they show that women would be more upset if their partners fell in love and didn't sleep with someone else.
Correct.
And men are the opposite.
Correct. That's correct, yes. And the interesting thing that you see with this sort of sexual gossip is that it is a precision targeted tool that women can use, and it works within all of their intersexual competition. So women don't want to have upfront physical violence with each other. They want to be subtle and safe are the 2 things that they'll try and do. Safe as in no one can see that it's actually them that's delivered it, and subtle as in it would be very hard and obvious to point out. So sexual gossip, let's say that I'm going, do you know what it is? I'm really worried about Mary. She just keeps on spending all of this time with different guys, and I'm just so worried that she's going to get hurt. And I keep on asking her to go out for dinner, but she keeps blowing me off for all of these different dudes, and I'm just really worried about her. What she's saying is, Mary's a whore and she's sleeping around, right? So venting is a very specific type of gossip, and it is this sort of exasperated, personal complaint that very subtly delivers a message about somebody else. If I say Mary's a whore and you should avoid her, that's quite open-faced, right? That's neither safe nor subtle. However, if I vent, it feels like me just naturally letting go of some discomfort that's occurred. Now, what it does, if you do that type of sexual gossip as a woman about another woman, it broadcasts your sexual chastity, because you immediately
you're worried about it.
You immediately posit yourself as, I'm worried about Mary, but me, I would never ever consider all of these different guys. I'm just a pure individual. I'm just here looking out for my friend. So first off, it broadcasts yours. Secondly, it's almost impossible to disprove. Like, you can't run around town showing people all of the sex that you're not having. Like, that's not a thing that you can do. And then finally, it really points a finger and derogates women that are the biggest competitors. So men, it seems, infidelity from men is done with women that are sexually open and like visually provocative. Those are the women who are precisely the easiest targets of sexual gossip, because it makes sense. It's like, I don't know, does it? Like, maybe this girl just doesn't like wearing a lot of clothes, but doesn't actually spray it around. There's like been tons of girls that I've known throughout my time in nightlife who'll go out dressed provocatively, but no one ever goes home with. So it's not exactly a one-to-one correlation. But yeah, sexual gossip is this precision targeted tool, broadcasts the gossipers' sexual chastity, derogates something very important about the woman that they're talking to, and also is this sort of safe and subtle thing as well.
Yeah, when you have kids of both genders, you see this when they're really young. Like I remember when my older kids were younger, I'm talking like first grade, and you'd see the little boys running around playing, and then one boy would like push another boy down, and then they'd cry, and the teacher would separate them, and then they go play again, and then another boy would take something from another kid, and then they fight, and then they'd start playing again. And then I remember this like it was yesterday. And then I'm looking at the little girls, and there was this one little girl that the other girls weren't playing with. And I walk over and I kind of listen in, and I can hear these first graders, first grade, and they're saying, "Don't play with so-and-so. I don't like so-and-so. Don't play with her." They had organized a group to ostracize this one little girl. Whereas with the boys, it was like, "I'm going to punch you in the face, take your stuff." A teacher comes over.
And then we'll be best friends after that.
And then we're okay.
Yep. Totally. Well, this is why male and female friendships are so fascinating in their differences, that men need to be able to get on very, very quickly with other guys within their group, right? Yes, I need to trust you. I need to trust that you've got my back. But if we're going to, it's like me, you, grab spear, go get mammoth. Like we're going to go take this fucking thing down together, which means that you need to very quickly be able to bond together, and you need to not have any underlying nasties that are lurking within this. Whereas women who would have done what's called alloparenting, like this sort of distributed shared parenting of non-kin children amongst friends, aunties, etc. I'll go get some berries, we'll bring them back, and then you can look after the kids for a little bit and do all the rest of it. It's much more important that women know a small group of incredibly tight friends, but that they ostracize the ones that aren't a part of that group. An interesting thing that you see for the denial of sex differences crowd, which is just the most insane philosophy that I've ever heard. Joyce Benenson did this research where she looked at kindergartners, so 3 years old-ish, 3 and 4 years old. And she's observed hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours of these kids. And the girls, if you look at what the girls are doing and what the boys are doing, it is precisely getting themselves ready for the sort of roles that ancestrally they would have done. So the boys, they will create an enemy of some kind. Maybe it's another group of boys that they're playing some sort of team sport with. Maybe it's aliens. Maybe it's cowboys. Maybe it's whatever. What is that? Warfare. They're practicing warfare as children, right? We will band together over and we will overcome an opposing tribe. If you look at what girls are doing, girls are keeping something alive. They're keeping a pretend rabbit alive. They're playing nurse. They're playing doctor. They're doing some sort of teacher role. They are keeping things alive. That's the fucking role that they're going to grow up into. And boys are
killing something.
Warfare.
Everything to guns and spears.
Precisely correct. Yes. And you think, okay, this is at age 3 or 4. It's cross-cultural. This is not socialization. This is what boys and girls are predisposed to do. Another really interesting thing. So the discussion about trans sports, right? Let's fucking kick this third rail. This is something that nobody ever talks about.
I don't know why this is a third rail, by the way. This is so ridiculous to me, but anyway.
So this is something that no one ever talks about. Everybody relies in the discussion around trans athletes in sports exclusively on the power thing, right? Almost exclusively on the power. It's bone density, it's muscle mass, it's all the rest of it. Nobody bothers to look at the different mental capacities that men and women have, because even the most ardent anti-trans in sports promoters haven't done the work to look at the fact that men and women mentally are incredibly different in terms of their capacities. At age 3, there is a 50 to 70% disparity in throwing accuracy between boys and girls at age 3. Brain scans can determine somebody's sex up to a 96% accuracy by knowing nothing else about them, just through their brain scans, right? So males have better what's called spatial rotation. So they're able to manipulate 3D objects in their mind. And you can imagine why this would be useful. I've got some wildebeest going left to right. I have a spear in my hand and I'm running in this direction. I need to be able to work out how fast it's going, how fast I'm going, how fast this spear is going to move. And I need to get all of them to intersect perfectly, right? Women have better memory localization. So this is why men lose their keys around the house and women find them, right? That they are very good. Games where you have, cards down on a table and you've got to turn 2 over and match them. Women will piss all over you when it comes to that. They will wipe the floor with you with regards to that. Their ability to do local memorization just is phenomenal. Why would that be? Well, women wouldn't range as far as men would. They wouldn't need to know how to navigate themselves back as well. Men over long range finding have better return accuracy in terms of where they're going, which is why like women don't know where they're going without GPS is like a bit of a meme and a cliche, but it's also generally true. But also guys don't know where the fuck they put their keys and they can't keep the house tidy is also true. Women need to know that bush is good in June, but it's not very good in August because the berries become bad. And I need to know where the best water is, where the best rocks are, where the best cave is, where the place that we're not supposed to go is. And that's this local spatialization. So when it comes to trans athletes in sport, everyone can say, we don't want fighters in the UFC because fundamentally, you know, a person that's grown up as a male for almost all of their life is going to smash 7 shades of shit out of some poor unsuspecting girl, quite rightly. But when you're talking about athletes going into especially throwing sports or kicking sports or ball sports, like there's a reason that the WNBA isn't quite as exciting as the men's, and it's that mentally the capacity of the athletes is optimized for something else.
You did touch a third rail here. This is great. Well, you know what? Okay, so the physical differences are obvious, and I think that's why people focus on them.
Correct.
What you're talking about doesn't seem as obvious, although when you discuss it and think about it, it is quite clear. Now, what does this mean? What this means is, and by the way, just to be clear, generally speaking, men and women are far more similar than they are different.
Correct.
It's at the ends of the extremes where you see the...
Like in professional sports.
Yes. So if you look for like the most empathetic, nurturing, you know, person who can read someone else's emotions from a distance, you're going to probably see mostly women, if not all women.
Correct.
If you're looking at for the most violent, most single-minded, you know, whatever, then you're going to probably find most men. And sports is the extremes.
Correct.
Professional sports is the 1% of the 1%. I mean, you know, I've never competed at high levels in sports, but I did do martial arts, and I did, you know, go against black belts who were local black belts, and then I would go against black belts who were world champions. And it's like it's not even the same species.
Correct.
Like a normal black belt versus a world champion, I might as well have been going against a child versus, you know, a gorilla. It was so different. So these are good conversations to have precisely because I think it helps us understand each other. Like I'm married, okay? And if you're married, it's very important that you grow with each other and try to understand each other because you're going to communicate. First of all, you're two individuals, but then you're also a man and a woman in many cases. And it helps to understand how women think and how men think so that when you communicate, you're not thinking that you're talking to your girlfriend or your guy friend. You're like, well, I'm talking to my wife and she's explaining something to me and she's telling me how she feels and she doesn't want me to fix it. She just wants me to listen to her.
Correct.
Whereas if Justin comes to me and tells me how he feels, he wants me to fix it. He wants me to give him an answer. He's not just...
you can empathize but not sympathize, and the reverse is true as well. Yeah, there's this thing called cross-sex mind reading, which is what you're talking about. It's a failure of cross-sex mind reading, and it happens a lot in mating. You have an over-perception and an under-perception bias of attraction, right? Men on average believe that the woman that they're speaking to is more attractive to them than she is, and women on average believe that the man that she's speaking to is less attracted to her than they are. So even just in that one example of, let's say, an awkward encounter in an office, right, where the guy's like, oh, she keeps on lingering her eyes at me, and the woman's like, oh, isn't he nice? Like,
she's like, I got something in my eye.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? And even in that situation, you can see one person sees one world and another person sees another world. It very much is two different existences that are going on. And yeah, absolutely. The way to transcend your programming is to first become aware of it.